What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 81. We got Sodiq Yusuff going against Edson Barboza.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all of this. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video. This week we are back in the Apex once again, breaking down a 12-fight card here headlined by Sodiq Yusuff and Edson Barboza. Not the best card in the world, but we got fights on Saturday, so always looking forward to breaking it down. Before we get into it, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, so don't miss out on all the other content throughout the week, betting content, DraftKings content, and much, much more, going live a couple times later in the week as well. So make sure you are subscribed to not miss out on that. We got a big card next week for UFC 294 with lots of changes, exciting changes. Khamzat Chimaev taking on Kamaru Usman. And then we got Alexander Volkanovski stepping in on short notice to take on Islam Makhachev. So really looking forward to UFC 294. But we are here today talking some UFC Vegas 81 here. And yeah, looking forward to it. Kind of a sketchy Apex card. Kind of feels a little bit like last week. Last week, a lot of wild outcomes. I feel like this week can kind of be the same. So looking forward to it, though. It's been a good run on a 3-event winning streak. Last week was a very tough card, but came out over 3 units in profit, thanks to one Joe Pyfer for going out there and not only submitting Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, but doing it in the second round there. So looking to keep the ball rolling. I am now plus 69 units for the year with a 21% ROI. We have 8 cards left to end the year, so hopefully we can finish it strong, and it all starts with this card here. I do want to shout out Prize Picks. If you guys have not checked out Prize Picks, highly recommend doing so. If you guys go check it out, use promo code DFSBTN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. It helps me, it helps you, free money, and I'll be trying to get some Prize Picks content out later in the week there. And then also got to shout out the website, dfsbythenumbers.com. It is absolutely the best way to support me there. There you will find all my content that you do not see on YouTube, the bets, the articles, this and that. Lots of content on dfsbythenumbers.com. But with all that out of the way, I say we get into it. And we're going to start with the first fight on the card. We got Emily Ducote going against Ashley Yoder. And we'll start with Emily Ducote. She is 29 years old, 5'2", with a 63-inch reach, 12-8 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Ashley Yoder, 35 years old, 5'7", with a 69.5-inch reach, 8-8 and 1-4 in her last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds. We see that Emily Ducote opened up as a minus 600 favorite. She is currently sitting at minus 350. And then Ashley Yoder, she opened up as a plus 425 underdog, and she is currently sitting as a plus 275 underdog here. So yeah, I don't have a ton of interest in this matchup. I think on paper it's a pretty easy win here for Emily Ducote. Emily Ducote has been very unimpressive thus far in the UFC. She went out there in her debut. She beat Jessica Penne, which was an okay win, but, losses to Angela Hill, just a dominant loss there, and then another loss against Lupe Godinez. But this is a matchup where, in theory, she has really good takedown defense. She should be able to keep this fight standing, and on the feet, Ducote's just going to be the much, much better striker here. Minus 350, absolutely not, but in terms of picking a winner, I have to go Ducote here. I don't like Ashley Yoder's chances, and by the way, it's been a while since we've seen Ashley Yoder in the cage. I mean, the last time she fought was back in July of 2021, and in that fight, she actually lost a decision against Jinyu Fry, 30-27 on all 3 judges' scorecards, which is just completely inexcusable. I mean, getting 30-27 by Jinyu Fry is a very, very bad look. 2-year layoff. She's 8-8. I mean, this should be Ducote all day here. So give me Emily Ducote win this fight, stuff the takedowns, and get the better of the striking across 15 minutes. Emily Ducote by decision. Moving on, we got Chris Gutierrez going against Alatengheili. We got Chris Gutierrez, 32 years old, 5'9", with a 67-inch reach, 19-4 and 2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Alatengheili, 31 years old, 5'5", with a 66.5-inch reach, 16-8 and 2 and 3-1-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, and we see that Chris Gutierrez, believe it or not, he opened up at plus 190 on BetOnline Sportsbook. It was there for about 9 minutes, but opened up at plus 190 nonetheless. Now he is minus 435. And then we got Alatengheili opened up minus 225, and he is currently sitting at plus 335. And yeah, I mean, I like Gutierrez here. Do I think he should be anywhere near minus 435? Absolutely not. I mean, the line actually kind of confuses me. I'm wondering if Alatengheili's coming in here with like a broken arm or a broken, like, I'm not sure what's going on here, because this fight's probably going to be competitive and it's probably going to decision. And then at that point, you know, the scorecard's going to be all in the hands of the crooked, corrupt, blind judges. But I mean, this should be a fight that Gutierrez wins in theory. I think Gutierrez is the much better striker here. He has a lot more tools on the feet. He's much higher volume than Alatengheili. Chris Gutierrez is going to be the bigger guy here. He's going to have a reach advantage, a big height advantage as well. I love the leg kicks of Chris Gutierrez. This should be a fight that Chris Gutierrez is able to kind of stick at range and just do more. I feel like this fight could look a lot like the Casey Kenny fight against Alatengheili, where Casey Kenny was able to do just that. You know, stick on the outside, land a bunch of leg kicks, land a bunch of body kicks, and Alatengheili really didn't have an answer. So I feel like for Alatengheili to win this fight, he's going to have to do one of two things. He's going to have to either knock out Chris Gutierrez, which is going to be much easier said than done, or he's going to have to go out there and wrestle Chris Gutierrez, which that would probably be the best path. It's just that's not really something Alatengheili has shown as much as I really like to see in terms of potentially going out there and picking Alatengheili. But this should be Chris Gutierrez by decision. But with these judges nowadays, you never know. And this fight should go the distance. Chris Gutierrez, I don't know if he's finishing Alatengheili here, but I'll take another decision win here, and I'll take Chris Gutierrez to get the decision in this one. Moving on, we got Melissa Dixon going against Irena Alekseeva. We got Melissa Dixon, 32 years old, 5'7", 5-0, and 5-0 in her only 5 fights. Irena Alekseeva, 33 years old, 5'8", 66-inch reach, 5-1 and 4-1. In her last 5 fights, we'll take a look at the odds, and we see that Melissa Dixon opened up plus 190. She is currently sitting as a minus 150 favorite. Irena Alekseeva opened up minus 225. She's currently sitting as a plus 130 dog, so kind of a line flip there. And yeah, this fight is just a complete mess. And in my opinion, I think it's I know people get offended when I say that. I think it's a very low-level fight. Irena Alekseeva came out there and pulled off just a massive upset in her last fight against Stephanie Egger. The whole world was on Egger. I picked Egger to win the fight, and quite frankly, I picked her quite confidently. But, Irena Alekseeva went out there. She took her down, and I think she got a knee bar in the first couple minutes of the fight, which was definitely a shock to me, going out there and doing that to Egger. It was a very good look. It's just, you go back and watch the fights prior to the Egger fight, and there's just not a lot to go off of. I mean, she's looking very, very tired as the fight goes on. Her striking is extremely wild. I don't think she has the best wrestling. I'm not sure she's that great, but yeah, she was able to go out there, get at the win against Stephanie Egger, and that's great. It's just I'm not sure how good she actually is. I don't want to say it was a fluke, but I mean, if that fight happened again, I'm not sure that's an outcome that happens all that much, that knee bar from Irena Alekseeva. As far as Melissa Dixon, I'm not that impressed with her either. Went back and watched her last fight. She was getting pieced up bad on the feet. I think her striking defense is atrocious. I think, believe it or not, Alekseeva's probably going to have the striking advantage on the feet, which is wild to say, because I don't think Irena Alekseeva has much process on the feet in terms of the striking. But I primarily think this fight is going to take place on the mat. I think it's going to come down to who's able to get on top here. And Melissa Dixon, she has shown the ability to get on top. And when she does get on top, she's very, very good. She has vicious ground and pound, a little bit of a submission game as well. I don't mind Melissa Dixon here, especially as the fight goes on. Alekseeva is going to have some opportunities early, I think. But as the fight goes on, we've seen Alekseeva slow down so much, just the way she fights. And even the Egger fight, she was going out there looking like she wanted to finish the fight early, and she did. But if she did not finish that fight, I'm kind of worried about her gas tank as the fight goes on. Another thing that to mention here is Irena Alekseeva did miss weight by 4 or 5 pounds in the Egger fight. So I kind of want to see Irena Alekseeva on the scale here. I know Dixon has missed weight before in the past as well, so maybe take a look at the weigh-ins for both fighters here. But I'm going to go Dixon. Don't feel amazing about it, but I do trust her more as the fight goes on. And I think if she can get on top in that second or third round, she can go out there and finish a very exhausted Irena Alekseeva. So I'm going to take Melissa Dixon to win this fight. I'll take her to win this fight by third round TKO. Moving on, we got Terrance McKinney going against Brendon Marotte. We got McKinney, 29 years old, 5'10", with a 73.5-inch reach, 14-6, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Brendon Marotte, he is 26 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 8-1. And 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. McKinney opened up minus 450. He's currently sitting minus 525. Brendon Marotte, He opened up plus 300, and he is currently sitting at plus 400. See, I was able to go watch some tape here on Marotte. I don't think he was terrible. He actually looked pretty solid. He's a New England cartel guy, but I mean, the level of competition is just abysmal, to say the least. I mean, his last win came, looks like August of this year, a couple months ago, against Lionel Young, who at the time was 11-20. And Young was actually able to take down Marotte early on in the fight, get into some dominant positions, and I mean, that just really tells you everything you need to know. I mean, Terrance McKinney, he's very good for about 5 minutes. Terrance McKinney has power. Terrance McKinney has wrestling. Terrance McKinney has grappling. He's super dangerous. One of the most dangerous guys in the division, but for about 5 minutes. And I think it's probably going to take a little bit less than 5 minutes here. I think he gets it done in less than 5 minutes. But if it turns out Marotte is able to survive, and these New England cartel guys, you know, what they're known for is that just ridiculous toughness. If Marotte survives the first round, he probably wins the fight. It's just a big if for me. I mean, Terrance McKinney is going to bring a storm that I'm not sure Marotte's going to be able to weather, especially on short notice here, and especially with such a big step up in competition. Like, McKinney has not had the best run in the UFC in the world, but McKinney's going out there, and when he's losing to very solid fighters. Sadikov's a very good fighter. Ismail Bonfim, good fighter. Drew Dober, very good fighter. So when he's losing to very, very solid fighters there. I'm not sure Brendon Marotte is UFC ready just yet. He is only 26 years old. He looks decent, but there's just so many unknowns. I mean, he's not really fought anybody. So McKinney's going to be like the best guy he's fought, and it's not even close. So I feel like McKinney would be wise to get this fight down to the mat, and I think he will get this fight down to the mat. And when he does, I think it's going to probably be over shortly after. So give me Terrance McKinney to win this fight by first round submission. But if Marotte's able to survive the first 5 minutes, he's very, very live. Again, I just think that's a big if at this point of his career. So McKinney first round sub for me. Moving on, we got Tainara Lisboa going against Ravena Oliveira. We got Lisboa, 32 years old, 5'7", with a 67-inch reach, 6-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Oliveira, 26 years old, 5'5", 7-1-1, and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. We got a big favorite here in Lisboa. Lisboa opened up minus 450, currently minus 310. Oliveira opened up plus 350, currently plus 260 there for Oliveira. So, yeah, one thing that was really interesting about Lisboa, I remember watching tape on Lisboa prior to the Jessica Rose Clark fight and thinking, she looks good. Like, I was very impressed with what I saw from Lisboa outside of the UFC, outside of that Rose Clark fight. And my concern in that Rose Clark fight was the fact that Lisboa hasn't really fought anybody that great. You know, she's going out there, she's looking good, she's finishing fights, but she hasn't fought anybody that great. But she went in there against Jessica Rose Clark and handled business. She went out there, got a third round submission, kind of broke Jessica Rose Clark, and she looked solid. Her striking looked a lot improved. And then she had the ability to get the fight down to the mat, and she has that sub game as well. So really liked what I saw in that Jessica Rose Clark fight. It was nice to see her going out there and beating an actual opponent. I think this is probably a step down. I mean, I guess Oliveira could be making improvements. She's only 26 years old, but from what I've seen, I'm not sure if she's that great. Her only loss comes by submission. It was due to a Ezekiel choke there. She hasn't fought anybody as well, so I feel like this should be Lisboa here. I'm kind of terrified, of course, of laying minus 310, but I think the striking is improving for Lisboa. I really do. You know, her striking looked a lot better in the Rose Clark fight, and then I think she has the ability to get the fight down to the mat, and when she does get on top, I feel like she should style on Oliveira here. So I like Lisboa to win this fight. I'll take Lisboa to win this fight by second round submission here, but yeah, should be an interesting one, I suppose. All right, moving on, we got TJ Brown going against Darren Elkins. We got TJ Brown, 33 years old, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach, 17-10 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Darren Elkins, 39 years old, 5'10", 71-inch reach, 27-11 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds. We see that TJ Brown opened up minus 225, and he is currently sitting at minus 180. And then we look at Darren Elkins. He opened up, let's see, around plus 190, and he is currently plus 155. So, yeah, I taped this fight a few days ago, and one of the very first fights I looked into, and after looking into it, I'm like, man, Darren Elkins is so live in this fight. He's so live to go out there and pull off the upset. TJ Brown's a guy that in general can't be trusted ever. I mean, TJ Brown has some of the worst fight IQ you'll ever see. TJ Brown's a guy that just makes mistake after mistake in there. TJ Brown's the type of guy that go out there and lose as a favorite. And this could be a potential matchup where that does happen. TJ Brown is a guy with, I think, is like 36% takedown defense. I think in the UFC, it's even worse than that. I think it's like 27% takedown defense for TJ Brown thus far in the UFC. So yeah, in theory, Darren Elkins could go out there, take this guy down easily, and control him a little bit. TJ Brown has some solid wrestling, grappling in his own right, but he definitely slows down. We've seen him slow down more often than not. We've seen him go out there and get finished by guys like Jordan Griffin, Bill Algeo. And like I said, he makes a lot of mistakes in the cage, and that's not going to slide against Darren Elkins. With all that said, though, Darren Elkins is 39 years old. He's taking just so much damage. And I actually went to Darren Elkins' Instagram after taping the fight to see what's been up with this guy. And the very first Instagram post that caught my eye was Darren Elkins in a wheelchair. And on the post, he said that he tore his meniscus, his MCL, and he fractured his fibula in the Jonathan Pierce fight. And then I saw that the post was only 42 weeks ago, which was less than a year ago. I mean, so not only is he 39 years old, he just tore his meniscus, MCL, and fractured his fibula, and that was less than a year ago at this point. So, I mean, that's terrifying, but Darren Elkins is tough as nails, but 39 years old scares me away. I would caution anybody laying minus anything on TJ Brown. He's just a guy that's untrustworthy, and I think there's a reason this line is coming down a little bit, because I think Darren Elkins is super live. It's just, does he have enough in the tank to go out there and beat TJ Brown at this point? I'm going to pick Darren Elkins for the upset. I think TJ Brown probably looks really good early, but in TJ Brown fashion, I expect him to make a mistake as the fight goes on, or gas out, or do something stupid in there, and I think Darren Elkins is going to take over, wear him out a little bit, and get the finish in the third round. So give me Darren Elkins to go out there, one last ride, and hopefully retire after this fight. I mean, Darren Elkins has taken just way too much damage. He doesn't look great in there. And it's kind of hard to watch at this point. So hopefully Darren Elkins hangs up the gloves. He's had a phenomenal career, very exciting fighter, but I think enough is enough for Darren Elkins. Give me Darren Elkins to go out there and beat TJ Brown and do it in the third round. Moving on to probably my favorite fight on the card. We got Christian Rodriguez going against Cameron Saaiman. We got Rodriguez, 25 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach, 9-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Cameron Saaiman, he is 22 years old, 5'8" with a 67-inch reach, 9-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that Christian Rodriguez opened up -170. He is currently -145. Cameron Saaiman, he opened up +145. He's currently +125. So, in my opinion, this is a very, very tough fight to call. I know people are very high on the Christian Rodriguez side this week, and I see a lot of people high on the Saaiman side this week. I just think it's a very, very well-matched fight. It's a fight that I kind of hate because I'm very high on both guys. I think Christian Rodriguez, only 25 years old, has a very high ceiling in the UFC, and I think Cameron Saaiman, who's only 22 years old, has even a higher ceiling in the UFC. I think Cameron Saaiman is going to be something special. He's only 22 years old, and he's looking as good as he has. I mean, it's something to definitely watch out for in the future. But they're matching up 2 prospects here, which it is a fight that I want to see, but at the same time I don't, you know what I mean? So in terms of how this fight plays out, I'm not really sure. Christian Rodriguez, I kind of think he may go the grappling route here just because Cameron Saaiman has shown just pitiful takedown defense. We saw Steven Kozlov take him down. We saw even Terrance Mitchell take him down. But I went back and watched that Kozlov fight, and Cameron Saaiman was not controlled as much as I initially thought. He was taken down by Kozlov, but he was able to reverse him pretty much every single time. And Cameron Saaiman's ground game looked really, really good against Steven Kozlov, who I think is a black belt. Cameron Saaiman's grappling really impressed me. And you could say the same thing about Rodriguez. I mean, Rodriguez's grappling impressed me against Jonathan Pierce. It impressed me against Raul Rosas Jr. As well. So both these guys, I think their grappling's really good. Both these guys have good striking. I think the striking is going to be close and competitive, but I like the striking of Cameron Saaiman a lot. I like the volume of Cameron Saaiman. I like the cardio of Cameron Saaiman. Cameron Saaiman throws so much volume. I mean, Cameron Saaiman's landing 5.41 significant strikes per minute, and he's not a guy that has like one punch knockout power, but he's a guy that's going to go out there and hit you a ton until you look for a way out. And I don't think Rodriguez is going to look for a way out, nothing like that, but I do think the higher volume striker is going to be on the Saaiman side. It's a close fight. I feel like this fight is going to play out on the ground a decent amount. I really feel like that is going to be the case here. I feel like Rodriguez is going to look to get the fight down to the mat. Maybe Saaiman will as well. So I feel like it's just going to be a close fight overall. I'm going to take Cameron Saaiman to win this fight. I just feel like I'm higher as a whole on Cameron Saaiman. I feel like this guy has the higher ceiling between the two. But like I said, it's a tough fight to call. Give me Saaiman to win this fight. Very close decision. I think the grappling is going to be very competitive. I think the striking is going to be very competitive. I think I just lean Cameron Saaiman ever so slightly in this one. It's one I will not be betting. It's one I'm going to sit back and watch and enjoy because it's one of the best fights on the card. Saaiman by decision. Moving on, we have Edgar Chairez going against Daniel Lacerda. We got number 2 here between the two. We got Chairez, 27 years old, 5'7" with a 72-inch reach, 10-5 and 2-2, and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Daniel Lacerda, he's 27 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach, 11-5 and 0-4 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Take a look at the odds here. We have Edgar Chairez opened up minus 225, currently minus 340. We have Daniel Lacerda opened up plus 190, currently plus 280, which those odds are very interesting because these guys fought like 3 weeks ago or so, 3 or 4 weeks ago at Noche UFC, and I don't remember Chairez being minus 340. I think he was around like minus 220, which is interesting because we all saw how the fight played out. I went back and watched the fight, and it looked a lot different than I remembered it. How I remembered it was, Lacerda was going out there, doing decent in the striking. I remember, Lacerda going out there completely changing up his style, not being a complete wild man. And then I went back and watched the fight, and I know a lot of people really liked what they saw from Lacerda. He didn't look as great as I remembered. I mean, he landed only 4 strikes in that fight. Only 4 significant strikes at range. Was landing with a 28% accuracy. He did a lot of missing, and then also his striking defense did not look great. I mean, I remember going back and watching that fight, and one of the commentators were like, since he is finally slowing down, we're starting to finally see that he does have holes in his defense, because before, his defense was his offense. But, since he did slow down, it showed that he doesn't really have striking defense. We saw that, Chairez was able to land strikes at a 60% clip. So yeah, Lacerda went out there, he took his time, which, I don't really like that. I don't like when guys change up their entire style. We saw a guy like Terrance McKinney do it in his fight against Bonfim, and he looked awful doing so. Lacerda, the thing that got him to the UFC was going out there being a complete wild man, and him changing up his style, it wasn't really working. Chairez outlanded him 3-1, and then we saw Lacerda go out there, go for some takedowns, have success going for takedowns, but, he's not going to have the cardio to do that 3 rounds. And I don't think he's going to be able to stay safe wrestling for 3 rounds. I just don't like this matchup for Lacerda. I know he's a very popular underdog this week, and I'll be honest, I can never pick Lacerda to win a UFC fight. I think that no contest was probably the closest he's ever going to get to a UFC win there. What comes down to it for me is one of these guys is durable, and that's Chairez. One of these guys has serviceable cardio, and that's Chairez. One of this guy has heart and toughness, and that's Chairez. I got to go Chairez here. I don't think Lacerda is going to finish Chairez early, and by the looks of it, it doesn't even look like he's going to try to do that. So give me Chairez to win this fight. My initial prediction for the last fight was 2nd round submission. I'll stick with that, 2nd round submission. Potential close 1st round, but I don't think Lacerda has more than 5 minutes of gas, even if he does pace himself. So give me Chairez 2nd round submission there. Moving on, we got Michel Pereira taking on Andre Petroski. We got Pereira, 30 years old, 6'1" with a 73-inch reach, 28-11, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Andre Petroski, 32 years old, 6 foot, with a 73-inch reach, 10-1, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Michel Pereira opened up plus 190, and currently minus 200. Andre Petroski opened up minus 225, currently plus 170. Yeah, so initially I was leaning the Pereira side, but after digging into the fight a lot more, I feel like this fight is very, very interesting stylistically, because you take a look at a guy like Pereira, he's fighting a ton of strikers. Santiago Ponzinibbio, striker. Andre Fiallo, horrible. Striker. Nico Price, striker. Chaos Williams, striker. Salim Imadaev, terrible. Striker. Diego Sanchez, grappler, but Sanchez was past his prime. Danny Roberts, striker, and then pretty much the only grappler he fought was Tristan Connolly, and he lost that fight. He lost that fight against Connolly, which was very interesting because I went back and watched that fight. That was a fight where Tristan Connolly, a featherweight, took that fight on short notice, and Connolly was out grappling him in that second, third round especially. Connolly got on top at one point in the third round. I thought Connolly was close to finishing Pereira in that third round. Remind you, Connolly's a featherweight that took the fight on short notice. Just a very bad look. So the only time we saw him fight a grappler, he didn't look the best. Now he's coming up a weight class here, taking on Andre Petroski, a big giant middleweight. So I'm curious to how he's going to deal with the size, the strength, the grappling of Petroski here. We got a striker versus grappler matchup. On the feet, it's not even close at all. It's Michel Pereira all day. But we're gonna see if Pereira can stuff some takedowns here. On paper, 94%. I'm sure that's a big talking point this week. But against who? Featherweight Tristan Connolly, and then a bunch of strikers, right? So I think that the takedown defense is a little bit misleading. Not that his takedown defense is bad. I just think that Petroski may have some success here. What worries me about Petroski, and I'm not even sure if it's a worry anymore, has really always been the cardio, because Petroski looks exhausted after the first 5 minutes, but he's one of those guys that he looks so exhausted, but he's able to fight through it and still have success. Like, he's finished multiple fights in the third round. He's won multiple third rounds. Like, it's ridiculous. This guy looks completely tired, and he's able to fight through it. Whereas Pereira, this is a guy that gets tired as well. He doesn't look that great as the fight goes on. So I feel like this fight could get very ugly. But I'm going to take Petroski here. I'm sure I'm going to be absolutely on an island here, but I think this fight's going to be very close and competitive. And I'm going to say Petroski goes out there and finishes Pereira in the third round. It kind of breaks him a little bit. I think both guys are going to be exhausted, but I think Petroski's going to get on top in the third round. And whether it's a submission or a TKO, I think Petroski gets his hand raised there late in the fight. But give me Petroski to win this fight. I'll take him to win this fight by third round TKO. All right, moving on. We got a very tough fight to call. Jonathan Martinez going against Adrian Yanez. We got Martinez, 29 years old, 5'8", with a 69.5-inch reach, 18-4, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Adrian Yanez, 29 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 16-4, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Let's take a look at the odds. We have Adrian Yanez opening up -300, currently +110. Jonathan Martinez opening up +250, currently -130. Like I said, very close fight. And I don't have the best read on this fight. What I will say is I think it could potentially be a buy low spot here on Adrian Yanez, just due to the fact that this guy was on top of the world after the Randy Costa win, after the Tony Kelly win especially. All the hype in the world was on Adrian Yanez. Then he comes out as a big favorite against Rob Font, which was a massive step up in competition. And then Rob Font went out there, clipped him, knocked him out in the first round, which was a terrible look. But now he's taking on Jonathan Martinez, who I think is a very good fighter. I think Jonathan Martinez has just continued to level up throughout the years. I think his kicks are phenomenal to the body, to the legs. But I feel like all the volume advantage is going to be in favor of Yanez. I feel like the power advantage is going to be in favor of Yanez. I think the boxing of Yanez is incredible. His hand speed's very good, but it's the kicks of Martinez that I feel like can really pose Yanez problems in this matchup. I don't see either fighter grappling. I think we got a 15-minute fight here on the feet, and it's going to be the kicks of Martinez versus the boxing of Adrian Yanez, the power of Yanez. I feel like the damage is going to be more so on the Yanez side, but I don't know. I feel like it's going to be close. I feel like this fight goes the distance as well, which a close fight that goes the distance, you have to worry about the terrible, terrible judges. But I think I'm going to pick Yanez here. Not a ton of confidence because I like Martinez quite a bit. I think it could be a potential bounce back spot here for Adrian Yanez after getting honestly embarrassed in his last fight against Rob Font. I mean, if you're getting finished in the first round by Rob Font, it's not a good look. But I think he does get back on track here and wins a very, very close decision against Jonathan Martinez. All right, so next we have the co-main event. Fight I could honestly care less about, and it's the co-main event. Weird. But we got Jennifer Maia going against Viviane Araujo. We got Jennifer Maia, 35 years old, 5'4", with a 64-inch reach, 21-9 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Viviane Araujo, 36 years old, 5'4", 68-inch reach, 11-5 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Jennifer Maia opened up -185, currently -150. Viviane Araujo opened up +160, currently +130. I mean, it's a close fight. All Jennifer Maia fights play out close, and a lot of Viviane Araujo fights play out close. It's going to go to decision. The judges are going to screw up the decision. And like I said, I'm not too high on this fight. I'm not too high on either fighter, but I feel like this should be a straight pick 'em. I really feel that way. On the feet, I think it's very close and competitive. I actually like the striking better of Araujo. I think she's a phenomenal striker. I really do. Her hand speed's incredible. She has some power as well. It's just the problem with Araujo has really always been she slows down as the fight goes on. Her cardio's terrible, and at 36 years old, I don't see it getting any better. That's why I can never trust Araujo. I think her cardio in every single fight fails her for the most part, and I think her durability is kind of failing her as well. I mean, getting dropped multiple times by Amanda Hebos is a horrible look. So yeah, the durability, the cardio of Araujo is a bad look, but I feel like early on, I prefer striking a tad bit more. I still think it's going to be close, but where I think Araujo can go out there and make this look pretty easy initially is going to be in the wrestling. Jennifer Maia's takedown defense sucks. 57% takedown defense for Maia. She was taken down twice by a striker and Manon Fiora. She was taken down by a striker and Caitlin Chukagan and controlled for a good bit in that fight. Like, that was a horrible look. She was taken down by Jessica Ai, of all people, twice. I mean, Viviane Araujo is a black belt in BJJ. She's a good wrestler. She's physically strong. She can wrestle, and she should wrestle here. It's just, as the fight goes on, like I said, she slows down. It's a close fight. I feel like Viviane wins the first round at a pretty decent clip. I feel like Maia wins the third round at a pretty decent clip. I feel like it comes down to the third round, and I feel like it comes down to the crooked, corrupt judges. So I'm going to take Viviane Araujo here with little to no confidence. It's hard to have confidence in somebody with no cardio. So give me Viviane Araujo to win this fight by decision. Moving on, we got the main event. We got Sodiq Yusuff going against Edson Barboza. We got Sodiq Yusuff, 30 years old, 5'9", with a 71-inch reach, 13-2, 4-1. In his last 5 fights, we got Edson Barboza, 37 years old, 5'11", with a 75-inch reach, 23-11 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds. We have a closely lined main event. Yusuff opened at -200, currently -160. Barboza opened up +170, currently +140. So first look, I wasn't too excited about this fight, but after looking into it, I actually have a lot of interest in it. I think it's going to be a very fun fight. Maybe not the best main event on paper, I'd say, but I think it's going to play out very violently. So in terms of picking a winner here, I think I got to go Sodiq Yusuff, and here's why. Edson Barboza is a guy that at 37 years old is going out there and still looking decent. I mean, he's looking good. In some fights, he's looking good. In some fights, he's looking bad, right? But this is a guy that has fought a lot of his career at lightweight, and he's, cutting down to 145 for Barboza at 37 years old. It's got to be tough on the guy. And, he's showing up to weigh-ins and looking horrible, but he's going out there and he is performing. And I do want to see Edson Barboza on the scale because, like I said, featherweight for Barboza, at this point of his career, it's got to be just so taxing on the body to get down there. But he's doing it, and he's looking solid in some of these fights. But some of these fights, he's not looking too solid. I mean, getting dropped by Bryce Mitchell, I know Bryce Mitchell's the man. He's a wrestler. Getting dropped by Bryce Mitchell is just completely inexcusable. Going out there, he got dropped multiple times by Giga Chikadze, broken by Giga Chikadze, which is not the worst thing in the world, but still not the best look. His cardio did not look great in the second or third round. And even in like the Billy Q fight, he looked solid, but he didn't look amazing. He was able to land that knee, knock out Billy Q, but I was starting to worry for Barboza a little bit. It looked like the pressure was starting to get to him, and then he landed that knee. I gotta go Yusuff here. Yusuff is 7 years younger. Yusuff has a lot of power. Both guys do. I do actually worry about the durability of both guys. Sodiq Yusuff he's never been knocked out in the UFC. But Sodiq Yusuff has been knocked out outside the UFC. The durability of Yusuff does worry me a tad. We saw him get dropped by Arnold Allen twice in that fight. Officially, it says once, but I remember him getting dropped twice. He got hurt bad by Gabriel Benitez as well. So yeah, maybe the durability is a little bit, concerning on the Yusuff side, but you could say the exact same thing for Edson Barboza. Barboza's been knocked out multiple times in the UFC. Like I said, Michel knocked him down. Giga knocked him out. We saw him go out there and get knocked out by Justin Gaethje, which no shame in that. And then we've seen him get finished before another time prior to that as well. So he's been finished quite a few times in the UFC. And I think he probably gets finished here again. So I think Barboza is actually going to be very live early on in this fight to maybe land something big. But as the fight goes on, I don't trust 37-year-old Barboza, in that third, fourth, and if it gets to the fifth round, like I don't expect him to look as fresh as the younger guy Sodiq Yusuff's going to look. So I think it's a late finish here for Yusuff, third, fourth, or fifth. I'm going to say Yusuff does officially knock him out. I'll say third round there. But Barboza's no joke. I mean, 37 years old. The guy's still going out there and performing with some of these high-level guys. But in a 5-round fight here, I got to go with Yusuff. So give me Yusuff KO 3. There you have it, guys. Not the best card in the world, but a card nonetheless. I'm really looking forward to next week in UFC 294. I'll be trying to get out some early content. I know this video breakdown came out late this week, but going to start getting into UFC 294 content. No bets as of yet, but I am looking to add a couple bets. Be on the lookout for the betting breakdown later in the week. I'm going live Friday as well for some final thoughts, and then live once more with Best Bet, and have a good panel on. And yeah, guys, best of luck. UFC Vegas 81. Another decent card, and ready to keep the ball rolling. 69 units up for the year, 21% ROI, and we'll see if we can end the year strong. Best of luck, everybody. Talk soon. See you.